Hello, hello, hello. It is a new gate and it's a first line, of course. Today we are looking at gate 6, the gate of conflict, the gate of friction. And the first line is called retreat. So today is a kind of a double sun day or a double line day, depending which way you want to look at it. We have line 1 at 22 minutes past midnight, and then we have line 2 at 28 minutes past 11. So there'll be another link. Now I'm in the UK, of course, so I'm on BST. It might not be the same where you are. So just to give you a heads up, there will be another thing. There'll be another, whatever they are, transit report later on today. And I guess it will take a few transits for us to get back in sync, but this is what happens from time to time. So we just deal with it, don't we? Okay, so the first line, retreat, in gate 6, the gate of conflict and friction. The first lines always give us the essence of the hexagram. You're probably really getting to know this by now. And here we are talking about the foundation of intimacy. And we've just come from the 6th line in gate 47, the gate of realizing. We're making sense of the confusion. And what that does to us, excuse me, what that does is it brings us to a lifetime learning that says the realization that wasting one's resources against overwhelming odds is not courage, but folly. Everything about the 6th gate is about not wasting resources. It's in the solar plexus. It's a motor. It doesn't want to waste its energy. It doesn't want to waste its resources. In the exaltation, we have the power of regeneration that can embrace retreat as a phase and not a failure. The emotional stability to accept conflict. You may remember when we looked at gate 59 that the 59-1 is the kind of caveman energy. It's called preemptive strike. The prisoner. Talking of preemptive strike, the prisoner. I was trying to remember that when I did the overview. I am not a number. I am a free man. Yeah, I don't know why I thought of that right now. But anyway, that's what I was trying to think of. That inspiration pulses in like it's fantastic. Okay, back to business. The 59-1, genetic continuity. It's called the caveman, or it's the preemptive strike, and it's often referred to as the caveman line. And this then is its resonance in the 6th line 1. This is the emotional stability that is found in retreat. The first line, as we know, they are always introspective. It wants to know what it means to be intimate, what it means to be open. What are the consequences of all of that? And because it's emotional, there's no truth in the now. When Ra taught about sexuality, he would always talk about the ignorance of our sexuality. It's based on the solar plexus, of course. It's easy to see that when most human beings get turned on by an emotional force, they have absolutely no restraint. And yet our sexuality can be absolutely clear if, big if, before we engage in any sexuality, we take our time. That necessary space, it protects us because it allows us a perspective through the emotional wave. So if you can say yes when you're up on the wave, that's easy, yeah? But can you say yes when you're down on the wave? That's not always so easy. And if you can say yes when you're up and yes when you're down, then you can take somebody into your sexual intimacy. And when you're down, they're not going to run a mile because they weren't expecting it, because they have seen you go through your process through the wave. It's not unexpected. They've experienced that already. And so you get to that moment of consummation, and so much of that has already been through that experience of the up and the down and the this and the that of the wave. And you have experienced yourself as well through the wave as you are in connection with them. It's a very different kind of relationship you can imagine. And of course, it's much easier said than done, because someone who is high on their wave is very attractive. And if you're open emotionally, then that could lead to all kinds of trouble as you amplify that juicy solar plexus, emotional, sexual energy. But instead of, sort of jumping straight in, there is the possibility of really enjoying the high end without doing anything about it. Just waiting, just watching, watching what happens, because the next week, who knows what they'll be? You're not going to do anything about it till then anyway. If it's real, whatever real means, but if it's real, if the strength of the attraction is still there, then you have an intimacy that's going to be of value. It's not necessarily going to last forever. I mean, this might not be the be all and end all kind of relationship, but it will be of value. And this is really what this line of retreat is teaching us. Wait and see. Don't waste your resources. Don't waste your energy. But as part of our conditioning, it's a sad fact that we will actually accept the destructiveness and the pain of intimacy because mostly we've never experienced anything else. We don't even know that anything else is possible. In the detriment, we have the inferiority complex, where retreat is experienced as personal weakness, emotional instability in times of conflict. So we have the two sides here. We have the emotional stability to accept conflict, where retreat is embraced as a phase and not a failure. And we have the emotional instability in times of conflict, the inferiority complex, where retreat is experienced as personal weakness. Two things. This is the first line emotional wave of weakness and strength. This is how it plays out. This is the nature of all intimacy. It's the foundation line, remember. This is the truth of the hexagram. This is the truth about intimacy and conflict and friction. This is what has to be investigated through the first line, the weakness and the strength. Both of them have to be revealed in their time. One of the things that Ra used to remind emotional people was that if you meet somebody, tell them, I'm an emotional person. You may not like me tomorrow. Emotional stability and the wave of weakness and strength. You can feel weak, and in that moment you accept intimacy. It doesn't mean that you're unstable because you're weak. You can be very stable and recognize that you're weak, and you need the intimacy to give yourself strength. At the same time, you can have the emotional stability to accept intimacy from the strength of your wave. And actually, you're always going to get both because of the wave. It just moves through. It's never static. It never stops at one point and says, this is your experience. It's always moving. Any line of a gate in the emotional system is always going to work both ways. It's always going to work for both sides of the wave and everything in between as it's going through its arc in the wave. So you always get both sides. When you are weak and unstable, you will accept the intimacy. When you're strong and unstable, you will accept the intimacy. It doesn't make any difference. It's still going to operate in the wave. You will still get both ends. The nature of this first line tells us that the most important thing about all of our bonding is to wait, to go into retreat, take our time, to recognize as well. I mean, this is quite a thing to recognize. Very clearly, you can see it, that we, as the kind of byproducts of our parents' relationships and all of the other children that have been brought into this world, unless there is some true serendipity at work, they've been brought into the world in ignorance. And that's not a judgment. They've come in, all of us, we've come in to the world based on genetic imperatives that are much more powerful than we are. The mechanic, the program, it's so powerful. And it's not a moral judgment at all. There's nothing moral in that sense about human design. These are just the way things play out. I've been reading a couple of interesting books lately that come in to this, to this kind of discussion. Both of them introduced the concept of conscious coupling. Was it Gwyneth Paltrow who had conscious uncoupling? But this is conscious coupling. One was from the angle of Catholicism. I was brought up, well, kind of brought up, I was brought up a Catholic for many years. I was born into a Catholic family. And so this was sort of looking at the Immaculate Conception. And it was saying that the Immaculate Conception really was about the consciousness of the couple as the child was conceived. That was what was immaculate about it. It was that awareness that they brought to their intimate connection. The other book said the same thing, but not from any religious viewpoint. But it was really interesting to sort of take that on board. It's not something I'd ever really explored. It was something I had completely denied or rejected. Immaculate Conception, you got to take all that on faith. No one can give you a good answer. It doesn't sit comfortably, or it didn't for me. So to get this sort of an input on it, to think about these bonding relationships that we have, these intimacies that we have, to be able to go into them consciously. Wow, what a gift. What an opportunity that is. And the dictionary definition of immaculate is actually honor or purity. So perhaps this also describes that the result of waiting out the way for clarity before entering into intimate relationships. Ra said that one of the first steps that we can take in lowering the chaos level in the world at the moment is to honor the first rule of the law of growth. Retreat. Retreat. Don't be in such a hurry to create the growth. You know, the law says, better one fine tree than a field full of weeds. Wait, wait. Wait and see where that seed should be planted, and when that seed should be planted, and with whom, before one goes out and decides that life is going to be a garden. This is very important because we don't listen when it comes to our emotions. You know, our emotions make us deaf and blind, really. And when it comes to intimacy, yeah, deaf, blind, and dumb. Really? I put my hand up to that. I speak from experience. Deaf, blind, and dumb. The first law is wait a second. Wait a second. Meet that person and say, oh, you're really nice. I like you. Yesterday I'd have married you. But today, no, no, no. Today I don't feel like it. But, you know, let's see. Let's see. I'll check it out next week, see how I feel. This is the foundation of intimacy. So we're grounded here all this week in gate 36, which is the gate of crisis, the darkening of the light, another solar plexus gate. The first line is called resistance. Retreat may be seen as resistance, I suppose, with the result being crisis. And yet crisis can provoke retreat. Can put his hand up and say, hold on a minute, let's just wait. Let's just see how this is going to work out. You know, this resistance is just a way of waiting, just a way of saying, I'm not quite ready yet. Venus moves into gate 32 at 1333. This is the gate of duration, of continuity, the tribal splenic gate that reminds us that the only thing that endures is change. Change can be very valuable. It can also be a bit scary. The fear in this splenic gate is the fear of failure. What if we change and we fail? Would we still value that? The moon is still in gate 13. This is the gate of the listener. It's a G-center gate. It's a gate of memory. It starts that reflective process by collecting and remembering things of personal value. All those previous gate 6 experiences and intimacies and connections. It remembers all of those. Personal value, but also potentially a value to the community as they are shared through this collective abstract gate. The moon then moves into gate 49 at 1631. This is the tribal solar plexus gate of revolution. It's a gate of principles. It is actively engaged in social change or not. It can often see the injustices of the world and has a need to correct them. The moon may bring a focus on the imbalance in the world, or the injustices that we have to put up with. Maybe the unjust. It was going so well. The unjust distribution of resources, things like food and shelter and other basic tribal needs. And resources is, solar plexus gate. So we don't want to waste our resources. We don't want to waste our energy. So that is where we are today. And there will be, as I say, another, because that was a very short moon, not much in the moon there, because we've got more moon. Can I say that? I've said it. Oh dear. More moon later. When we have gate 2, which is later on today. So until then, I'm going for a lie down. I will see you in gate 2. Take care and go gently.